In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, my dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, I will discuss about the plasma membrane. The term plasma membrane was coined by Pfeiffer. Plasma membrane was discovered and named as cell membrane by Kramer and Nigali in 1855. Plasma membrane is the outermost covering of the cell that separates contents of the cell from its environment, or we can say from its external environment. Plasma membrane is semi-permeable, or we can say selectively permeable. Semi-permeable or selectively permeable means it allows some substances to move in and out of the cell and also prevents some substances to move in and out of the cell. That's why plasma membrane is selectively permeable, because it allows some substances to pass through it while preventing some substances to pass in and out of the cell. The structure of plasma membrane. We will talk about which is accepted. There are many models of structure of plasma membrane, but we will discuss that model which is acceptable in present days. That is, the structure of plasma membrane was given by Singer and Nicholson in 1972, and this model of structure of plasma membrane is called fluid mosaic model. According to this model, bilaminar means bilaminar, which means it is made up of a lipid bilayer, two layers of lipids, in which proteins are present inside the lipid bilayer and also outside the lipid bilayer. I am going to repeat this structure of plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is bilaminar. That means it is made up of a lipid bilayer in which proteins are present inside the lipid bilayer and also outside the lipid bilayer. In this model, the structure of plasma membrane or the proteins are described as icebergs floating in a sea of lipids. According to this structure, the proteins in the plasma membrane are like the icebergs in the floating in the sea of lipids. Now we will talk about these proteins. There are some proteins which are present inside the plasma membrane. Those proteins are called intrinsic proteins. And the proteins which are present outside the lipid bilayer are called extrinsic proteins. Similarly, there are some types of proteins which are present throughout the lipid bilayer from one end to another, and these act as tunnels or channels. Hence, they are known as channel proteins. The structure of plasma membrane is like this. I am telling you this in brief as this class is for class 9th. This is the structure of a part of plasma membrane. This is lipid bilayer. A lipid molecule in this plasma membrane consists of two parts. One is the hydrophilic head and another is hydrophobic tail. Hydrophilic means water loving, that is these heads of the lipid molecule are water loving and the tails are water hating molecules. The hydrophilic heads are directed outwards and hydrophobic tails are directed inwards in the lipid bilayer. In biology or in science, when a molecule has dual properties, that is one part of it is hydrophobic and another is hydrophilic, then that molecule is called amphipathic. So these are extrinsic proteins, these are tunnel proteins, these are extrinsic, these are intrinsic proteins. This is the structure, brief structure of plasma membrane. Now, in addition to lipid bilayer proteins, there are also carbohydrates present. If the carbohydrates are attached to the proteins, they form glycoproteins in the plasma membrane. If the carbohydrates are attached to lipids, then they form glycolipids in the phospholipid bilayer. And mostly they are on the outer surface of the plasma membrane. Now we will discuss about some important functions of plasma membrane. Number one is it protects the cell. It protects the cell as it forms a covering around the cell. It protects the cell from external environment as it is a covering around the cell. Number second is it allows and prevents movement of some substances in and out of the cell. Therefore, it helps in transport of materials. In and out of the cell. Transport of materials in and out of the cell. In plasma membrane, both types of transports occur. That is active transport and passive transport and active transport. Passive and active transport. Both type of transports occur across the cell membrane or plasma membrane. Passive transport is that type of transport in which no energy is needed for the movement of substances in and out of the cell, and active transport is that type of transport in which energy is needed. Energy is needed to transport materials in and out of the cell. Now we will discuss how some substances like carbon dioxide, oxygen and water move in and out of the cell. Carbon dioxide and oxygen move in and out of the cell by the process of diffusion. Now, what is diffusion? Diffusion is the spontaneous movement of substances from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. Spontaneous movement of a substance from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. And carbon dioxide and oxygen move in and out of the cell by this process, that is diffusion. What happens when the concentration of carbon dioxide increases inside the cell and its concentration as compared to its concentration outside the cell, it moves outside the cell by the process of diffusion. Since carbon dioxide is a cellular waste and is continuously being produced during respiration, its concentration increases inside the cell as compared to outside the cell. So it moves from higher concentration inside the cell to the lower concentration outside the cell by the process of diffusion. Similar thing happens with oxygen. When the concentration of oxygen falls in the cell because it is continuously being used in respiration, its concentration decreases as compared to the outside of the cell and it moves inside the cell by the process of diffusion from higher concentration to lower concentration. Now, what happens in case of water? Water also obeys the law of diffusion. That is, it moves from the region where the concentration of water molecules is high as compared to the regions where concentration of water molecules is low. But when water moves from a region of higher water concentration to a region of lower water concentration, through a semi-permeable membrane, then it is not called diffusion, it's called osmosis. So we can say osmosis is the movement of water molecules. Osmosis is the movement of water molecules from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Now, I forgot this in the beginning. Plasma membrane is the membrane which is present in all types of living cells. Present in all types of cells, including prokaryotic as well as eukaryotic. That is, prokaryotic cells also have plasma membrane, eukaryotic cells also have plasma membrane. This is end of this topic. Now I would like to request you to subscribe my channel